My name is Keith Probst. This is my wife, Sandi.
And we have 3 children. Aaliyah, who is in 3rd grade. She is 8 years old. Owen just turned 6. He's in kindergarten. And Eli is 1 year old. And we live in South Allison Hill, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
We moved here about 7 years ago. It was 2004. About a year before that, we really sensed God's call on our lives to head into full-time missions. And so as we were discerning where God wanted us to be, we really felt the Harrisburg area was where God was calling us.
But throughout the years, God has called us to Chiloe, Chile, in South America, and our focus there, of course, will be in children in crisis.
Our anticipated leave date, we're looking, hopefully our timeline gets us there in August of 2012. We've always sensed that wherever we are, that's our mission field. Our job as Christians, our role is to love God with all of our hearts and to love people. And location is really secondary. That happens whether we were in rural Maryland, whether we're in the center of Allison Hill, Harrisburg, or if we're on an island in South America. Our job is the same. It's to love God and to love people. Now the context of that might look different depending on the location, but location is really secondary. So we've always sensed that our mission field while we live in Allison Hill is our neighbors and the people around us.
When we first moved here, as we started to look around us and try to meet our neighbors, quite frankly, I think we can say we were kind of overwhelmed at the need we saw around us, the hurt, the hopelessness. But we were asking God, what is our role here? We're here on 13th Street. What do you want us to do here? And so I think for us, we knew that it's important to be intentional about what we do. We need to be thinking about it, praying about it. What does God have us to do?
It was interesting that first year, people wouldn't even come to their doors. We had several neighbors that wouldn't even answer the door to take the cookies. They were just so suspicious. Why was somebody knocking on their door? But it was through small acts like that that people began to see that we just were interested in them and wanted to build relationship.
Somewhere along the line, in the middle of us living here, it somewhat not flipped, but it's somewhat changed from us trying to reach out to others as others reaching out to us. Maybe not necessarily to show us Jesus, but just to build relationships. One special moment, when our 3rd child was born, 2 of our children were born here. When our 3rd child was born, one of the relationships that I developed with one of our neighbors, she had made us this wonderful meal from she's from Niger, Africa, and she had made us this wonderful, wonderful meal in celebration of his birth. And it's this huge, big thing of a chicken and all the vegetables. And to me, it was just such a joy to see that not only were we reaching out to others, in return then people were reaching out to us to continue on those friendships and develop in that way.
Yeah. The illustration came from Jeremiah 29, where the Israelites were in exile. And God's message to the people was, you're in exile and you're missing another place and you want to be somewhere else, but I'm telling you to be settled where you are. And he told the people to plant gardens and to plant vineyards and to have their sons and their daughters marry and to be intentional about being where they were. And so we recognize that just like planting a grapevine, you're not going to get fruit in that first year, but yet you need to grow where you're planted. And so in fact we actually got a grapevine and planted it in our backyard, and we use that as a symbol that our time here we are going to be very intentional about building relationships. And while we may not see fruit instantly and overnight, that fruit comes with time as we continue to be intentional. For us, we've never been in a ministry per se. Like, we've never had a children's club. We've never had a program of any sort. Our ministry has just been reaching out to our neighbors and building relationships. And God has used some amazing ways to allow that to happen. From the time that our neighbor ran into our car and totaled it, and it was the day he moved in, and that was our opportunity to meet him, and at the same time show him forgiveness and God's love, and use that as a sounding board for that relationship. And I don't think he'd ever experienced anything like that.
We have found too that being intentional, always having that in our mind that we are to be Jesus to others. to be intentional when situations come up, whether they're everyday occurrences, going to work, just everyday things, or in crisis situations.
I remember one evening we were coming in the door, and I saw my neighbor coming down the street, and we just sensed that something was not right. Something was off, and I wanted to just walk in the house and avoid it. And Sandy said, "Why don't you just go talk to him and see how he's doing?" And it reminded me about being intentional. And so I just stepped back out on the porch and I said, "Hey, how you doing? You look like you're having a rough day." And he told me that he was coming home to get his things in order, and then he planned to go down and jump off of the bridge. And that opportunity led to me being able to get him to the hospital, get him some of the help that he needed. And through that, share the gospel and pray with him. And he actually did pray to receive Jesus and got involved in church. And we saw a lot of really positive change with him. And had I just walked in the door that night and avoided it because I was tired and I just wanted to get in the door, had I done that, who knows how that would have turned out. And so just a great illustration of the importance of being intentional.
I know when I first moved in here to this neighborhood, I grew up on a farm, southwest Pennsylvania. I felt like there wasn't really a lot of commonalities with me and my neighbors. We have a lot of neighbors from all around the world. And the importance of being able to be able to start talking with people, find where my story and someone else's story connects. There's always a connection somewhere. It might be something very small or it might be something big, but there is normally a connection. And when you find that connection, to be able to build on that, build those relationships off of that connection,